Hello and welcome to Blind and Knitting with Donna. I hope you're all been well. I've had an interesting time, and I think I said in episode 7, this is episode 8 by the way, that I was going into hospital for some surgery, and so I'm on the other side of that now, so I'm in recovery mode. What was supposed to be a 2-hour surgery turned into a 4-hour surgery with the night and the high dependency unit. So it was a little bit of a rough ride, and I've got quite a wee way for recovery. But what that does mean, although I must admit I haven't been in the mood for a while, is lots of knitting in the while I'm in recovery mode. Anyway, welcome to Blind and Knitting, episode 8. You can find me on Instagram on blind_and_knitting. Thank you so much for your comments. I'm really loving getting the comments from people, the motivation, etc. And the likes, the little hearts and the little likes on Instagram and on YouTube. I am truly appreciating that, and it's really fun each morning to flick through my messages and think, where is this message from, and what does it say? And yeah, so it's really lovely to be able to talk to people that have the same love as me. My passion for knitting and crafts and anything to do with my hands, really, gardening, crafts, knitting, has been with me all my life. And I don't have a lot of family and friends around me that have the same passion or the same interests as me. That's not fair. I've got a few that have, a few that knit, and a few that do crafts, and a few that sew, and a few that, but the bulk of my sort of immediate family, as soon as I start bringing out or start talking about knitting, they roll their eyes like, she goes again. So it's really nice to be able to sort of talk about my knitting to people that I hope are really interested. Well, if you are interested, you'll remain, watching my channel. So otherwise you can stop. But it is lovely to talk to people that are interested as me as well as me. I am a little hickledy-pickledy with my words because I'm still in that recovering from general anaesthetic mode. So please forgive I've always been like that anyway. I can blame general anaesthetic, but hey ho, that's who I am. Anyway, I hope you're all well. We're in New Zealand here. It's just stifling hot today. It's going to be extremely hot. It's out my window is a heat hue of, how things go all sort of foggy, when misty heat sort of haze out there. So it is going to be hot. We are supposed to be expecting a bit of rain in the weekend. I've just been out and watered my garden, which is doing really well, I have to say. There's just vegetables coming in all different directions. Our tea last night was beef that we grew, potatoes we grew, cheddar cauliflower that we grew. What else did we have? Our roast beetroot, which was from our garden, and carrots, from our garden. Is that what we had? Anyway, they were all from our garden. So it was, it's really lovely to sit down and have a meal that, that basically there's only been 100 yards or for the beef, a couple of paddocks, mileage between the plate and the production. So if you are enjoying my podcast, please subscribe down the bottom. Just push the subscribe word. If you click that, and there's a little bell on your right hand side, so you can click that and you'll get a notification up in the notification panel when I have my podcasts. I try and do them fortnightly. I can never guarantee that, but you know what life is like. And at the moment, I suspect I will be able to do them fortnightly. As I say, I've got this recovery going on, but sadly, New Zealand it's our turn to get the COVID waves, Omicron. So we know that the wave is coming. I was listening to a microbiologist on TV the other day on the news, and he said explained it in a really good way. And he said it was like, how did he say it? It was like trying to manage wind You can sometimes change its direction, but it's still going to happen. So we know it's coming. We have had the luxury in New Zealand, and it's so sad what's happened in other countries, that we've all been able to have time to get vaccinated. I'm double vaxxed. I get my booster on Thursday. So that'll be an interesting time for us down in little old New Zealand. You guys up in the rest of the world have been through it, and I hope you're coming out the other end fairly reasonably unscathed. But anyway, this is a knitting podcast, so we do talk a lot. It seems to be weather and COVID at the moment, and so what did I do? Start this podcast with weather and COVID. Kenzie, my third child, Kenzie, has been doing really well. She had 2 or 3 nights without me, and she doesn't like her pack being separated. She tends to, I don't know if pine is the right word, but she tends to go from one door to the next and just sort of sit out, staring up the driveway, waiting for the one that's missing, to come home. So she was super happy when Mum came home. And Mum was super happy. I must admit, I missed her. I missed my home, my family, and my third child, Kenzie. So I don't know if I've said it in other podcasts, but Kenzie has her own Facebook page. So if you want to look up a little bit more about Kenzie and see what she looks like and sort of what her day-to-day life is, and I always try and put little fun things on, not always, but often put little fun things on it of what she's been up to. And it's called Kenzie the Guide Dog. So if you want to go on Facebook and search for Kenzie, Kenzie, the Guide Dog, you can have a look at her and get some kind of ideas of what she's about. So, as I said, I've been doing quite a bit of knitting. I say I've been doing quite a bit of knitting, but my brain hasn't been too good. Before I went into surgery, I planned that I would have some projects on the go. One that was kind of a thinking one that needed a bit of work. I do have some finished objects, my foes. They still need to be sewn up but I could consider them finished objects because the knitting's finished, so I'll start with those. And this is the one thing that I said that I was never sure I'd ever finish. I kept thinking, will I ever get round to these? It's my grandchildren's hats for camping. Well, I've made, where are we? I had it all organised here. Oh, here we go. I've finished them. I've got 4 grandchildren in one family that love camping. So I thought, right, I'll make them all a hat to go camping with. So I wanted pure wool. So I brought this, it's called Naturally Loyal, and it's 100% pure wool, pure New Zealand wool. I got it from the embroidery shop in Masterton. And I chose 4 different colours that were, none of the kids the girls aren't girly, the boys aren't, the boys are boys. So I wanted colours that would match them. So I have made 4 hats, 2, 3, 4. Now they do still need to be sewn up, but it's going to look lovely on me, I must admit. Oh, why bother, Donna? Anyway, that is the hat. It will fit all of the sizes of the kids, and they've already tried them on. And I didn't have a pattern, I just made it up, and it was bulky knit, and I used humongous needles. But what they've done is given this lovely, thick, quite soft, actually softer than I expected, wool fabric that I think will be super warm when they're sitting around the campfire. This family, my daughter and her fiance, soon to be husband, and therefore, well, they've got 5 kids, so their 5 kids all love camping, and they're not just fair weather campers. They'll get out at any time. They'll just get out, whether it's raining, cold, windy, sunny, beautiful, whatever. They'll just get out and camp. So this will be nice around the campfire in the winter. So I did knit one. I knit this one first, And I got so far up to about there, and I thought, oh, you know, I think I've got ADD. My son has ADD. I've always felt that I have ADD signs. I thought I was starting to lose interest, and I thought, how can I knit 4 hats and keep interest? I thought, well, I'll knit them all together. So I've already done that one. So I cast on 3 hats on one long circular needle, and I knit the 3 back and forward. I didn't do them in the round. I've done them in the flat, so they do have a seam at the back. But so I had 3 on my circular needle, and I just went back and forth. I was just really conscious of making sure that I didn't get the threads twisted when I turned them round, and if I turned clockwise to turn around, I always made sure I turned anti-clockwise back, and really tried to keep those yarns untwisted so that I didn't have any trouble. But it just, by the end of it, so I did the 3, and then I got up to the same level as I was up to on this one, and I added this one to it. So I had 4 hats on the needles, and I was finishing the 4 hats. I was up to the decreasing, so it was fairly easy. So that's how I got them done so quickly. 4 hats, 1 needle, knit all at the same time. Just the fabric is lovely. It's really soft for a 100% wool. It's not toothy at all. It's going to be lovely and warm and cozy for them for camping. So I ran out of wool. I did 1 skein, and that's when I ran out of wool, when I got to about there. And I thought, oh, poo. Buying 1 more skein just to do that little amount of, but I really wanted them all to be their own colours. I didn't want stripes or anything. So I went and got 4, well, I got my sister-in-law, because I'm not allowed to leave the house, basically. I couldn't leave the house. I got my sister-in-law to get 4 more skeins. And so, of course, I only had that little bit to do. So I have 4 quite full skeins left. So what I've decided to do, and I've made a start, if I can get it out, is I've decided to knit Dad a hat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to knit his hat striped. I'm going to knit it these 4 colours, so you can have 1 colour of each of the kids in his hat, which I thought was quite nice. So 1 colour each for the children, and Dad's hat will be striped, which will have 1 colour of each of the children in the hat. So that's started. I'll make a go on that. And then my daughter doesn't wear hats. She's a bit like me. She's not a hat person. But I thought what I would do is the same thing. I would make her a headband, just to keep her ears warm. So I'll make her a headband, but I'll do the same thing, and I'll do it striped with the 4 colours. So I thought that was kind of cute. I mean, yeah, just something a bit different. I've used monstrous needles. Now, I can't remember what size they are. 11 is what rings a bell. I've got my notebook there, but it's under all my knitting. So I just made up the pattern. I got my partner's farming hat, and I thought, well, that looks like that's going to be round enough. That's going to be long enough. I've made a lot of hats in my time over the years for kids and babies and that. So there we go. That's been my main. Well, they didn't take long, to be honest. They probably took, I don't know, 3 or 4 days to knit. But as I said, I am in recovery mode, so I am sitting a lot, so I can pick them up whenever I want. Just throw that over there, and do them whenever I feel. So which is quite a bit. So I kind of get up in the morning, have a shower, come and get a cup of tea and my breakfast, and then it's like sit here and go, okay, it's knitting time. So get my knitting out, but my brain hasn't really been that fantastic. But this has been nice and easy. I've made the pattern up, so I haven't had to follow a pattern. I haven't had to use my sight, which is a bit at the moment because of the general anaesthetic and being unwell for a while. My sight problems, they tend to they can be quite good some days and really, really bad others, and it does depend on things like how well I am, what mood I'm in, all of those sorts of things make a difference to what my sight levels are, and they haven't been so grand. So that's been good knitting. But as I've started to come out of the haze of the general anaesthetic, I thought, well, I'll get into something else, but I also had planned, and again, this is one that I've shown on other iPods. Sorry, I keep saying, I've got to stop that. Really annoying. And this is the Ribblesdale, that a pattern by somebody French. Her last name is French. It was on my last podcast. All the details are there. And it's Brioche. It's a nice little waistcoat. And it does take a bit of thinking because I've never done brioche before. But I've done quite a bit. So most of it was done before I went into surgery because I wasn't feeling so grand beforehand. Obviously, that's the reason I had surgery, because I wasn't well. So most of that has been done beforehand. I've divided for the sleeves and I've made a start on the front. Now, I've never done brioche, as I said. Where's my needles there? And I had to kind of learn how to do cast-ons and right, left and left decreases and etc. I think I've done quite a good job, actually. And I did it without a lifeline. I thought, oh, I'm really risking this? But I didn't put a lifeline in. Now, I have done one thing that I'm not very happy about, and I keep thinking, should I rip it out? And I thought, I don't know, because I've never done brioche before, but people talk a lot about how difficult it is to rip out or fix a mistake on brioche. And it's a mistake that you feel rather than see. And it's in the decreases along the neckline. Oh, see, that's the neckline there, and that's where the start of the decreases come. So you can't sort of see, well, I think you can't sort of see any mistakes. I think it looks pretty good. But right down the bottom, my first decrease, I don't know what I did, but there's a great big, where is that? There, great big lump and hole. So, as I say, you can't see it, but you can certainly feel it. Well, because you can't see it, I'm not going to rip it back, because I might make more of a mess ripping it back than just being with. I'm hoping that blocking will help sort of spread it out a bit. I can obviously stitch the hole up. It's not something that I will wear undone, so that the inside, if that doesn't look so grand, that's not going to be a problem. It is what it is, and it's there. But I think what I will do, seems I've realised that, yes, I am a new brioche knitter, is I will put a lifeline in before I do the back decreases and the other front decrease, just for safety, just especially when my brain's not so. I'm not going to pick this up for a little while because my brain isn't working well, and this is something that I really need to think with. But I'm quite excited about this. It's going to be a waistcoat to wear over nice flowy shirts and sleeveless waistcoat, and I get so hot that I think this will be lovely for that. It's brioche, which I've never done, and as I said last time, it's so bouncy. I am really enjoying this. It's beautiful wool. It's from Skeins. It is vintage from Skeins, and I've made lots of jerseys with vintage from Skeins, which is in New Zealand, a New Zealand company up in Napier, and they produce that wool, which I've loved. And so that's that one. So the one I've been working on mostly after my hats, or I'm not a monogamous knitter. I do have to have several projects on at a time, and especially this time of year with heat, because it's like I wouldn't want to knit that brioche on a 32 degrees day. It's too hot on my hands, too hot on my lap. So the hats were great because they were really small. And they didn't impact me too much with heat. And I mean, wool is an amazing fibre at the best of times, so it's not too bad. But the one that I've been working on of most the last couple of days, as my recovery is starting to get better and better, is my Toujours, which is a shawl that I saw being worn by Kevin and Ray on Needles at the Ready, and just fell in love with, and thought I have to have. Funnily enough, the other day I watched another one of his and he had it on again. So I'm getting quite a way through this. Look at this. It's going to be huge, but I'm 6 foot, so I can carry you know, a big shawl or scarf around my neck, and I live in scarves. Too many. I won't. Too many. That's all there is to it. I've just got. I always wear scarves because I get so hot. I find scarves are great because I can whip them around my neck. They look fashionable. You can go out, do whatever you need to do, and then when you get back to the office or at home, you can whip them off and you're cool again quickly. So they do suit me with my body temperature. But it's a pretty wee pattern. It doesn't take a lot of thinking. It's been so easy, quick to do. I know you've seen these all before in episode 7. So, and I make no apologies because I'm really just showing you where I've got with them. I knew that I wouldn't have too many FOs because of where I've been at, but it's a monster. It's supposed to go to 184 stitches. I counted it last night and I've put a marker in there as my 100 stitches. So I'm at 134. So I've got 50 stitches to go, and so it won't take me long, although I am at the fuller end. And then you just finish with a chunk of garter stitch and a I-cord bind off, which I've never done. So that's another learning thing for me. So I'm really excited about wearing this. It's, as I said before, it is cashmere merino cashmere. I think it's something like 60, 20, 20. Can't remember what the other 20 is, but it's so soft. Really enjoying it. Nice intuitive knit. Don't have to think too much. It grows so quickly. It's quite addictive, and yeah, I think that'll be finished. Well, hopefully by the next podcast, I should be able to get that as an FO for then. Might be a bit hot to wear it at the moment, I have to say, but it'll be done. My sister-in-law went and got some more wool for me. She got when I ran out of wool for the hats, my dear sister-in-law who lives with us, who lives with us. We're kind of like the Golden Girls, we all flat together. It's quite cool, really. And she went and got some more wool for me for the hats when I'd run out, and she came back with some little markers for me, some stitch markers, and it's a little sheep. Let's see if I can, little sheep, which is quite cool considering we live on a farm. So that was really nice. Yeah, so those are my works in project, my finished objects. Well, apart from sewing the hats up, and I'll do mum and dad's hat. And there are 5 kids in the family, so I might, I know that, so my eldest granddaughter, the eldest daughter in this family, she's deaf and she wears hearing aids, so hats are no good for her, so I won't make her a hat, but I could make her a cowl, couldn't I? I'd never thought of that. That's what I could do. I could make her a cowl. There we go. That solved that problem. There's always something, there's always a way around little issues, isn't there? Yeah, so I guess she'd be no good with a hat because it would cover her hearing aids and make whistling noises and scratching, and she couldn't hear anyway. So I will make her a cowl. I'm really happy about that decision. Yeah, well, what you come up with when you're yakking away to people that are listening. I hope you're listening. Or have I bored you senseless? I don't know. If you're bored, turn me off. If you're listening, that's grand. So those are I haven't done much of my dishcloths, my crocheting. I did get it out and I did do 3 or 4 stitches. I'll say stitches, not rows, and I just put it away. So I haven't done much on those. I tried to knit in the hospital, but the lighting was hideous. I think the health board are trying to save money. And it was in the middle of the day and it was like 9 o'clock at night lighting. It was just terrible. So I suppose it's because we're supposed to be in recovery mode, and if I'm sitting up knitting, then I shouldn't be in a hospital, I suppose. I don't know, but the lighting was terrible, so I had to wait till I got home and sit in my chair, which I've told you before with my sight challenges. This is my perfect spot. I can see much clearly. Now, in my last, up to now what I have purchased recently, and in my last podcast, I told you about my purchases for wardrobe toolbox, which I'm doing with Libby Johnson. She's got a new pattern coming out. It's either today or tomorrow. So is today the 1st? I think today's the 1st of February. It's my son's birthday in the weekend. It was my grandson's yesterday. Yes, it's the 1st. So she's got a new pattern coming out, and she's had the urchin, which I'm quite keen to knit, and she's got another one that's come out called, now it's a funny name, and it's said not how it's spelled, Seashar. It looks like soiree, but it said Seashar. And that's another pattern. So there are 3 patterns of Libby's in a row that I'm quite keen to knit. So I had ordered some wool before I went into hospital from Happy Go Knitty and I told you the story about Helene ringing me and saying that I'd ordered a wool that she wouldn't recommend for jerseys and how much I appreciate that, and I still really do. Well, the wool came while I was in hospital, and I did open it the day I got home and looked at it and thought, oh, is this really what I've ordered? But I was in a doze. I had been taking morphine. I'd just come out of hospital. I'd just come in the door, and I was that excited that I opened it and I put it away, and I haven't looked at it since. And I came home, what's today? So 7 days ago. No, that's not right. 4 days ago. So I'm feeling in a better headspace to look at it. So this is the first time. So you just imagine that I'm opening it from a posting bag. This is really the first time with a logical head that's not all fuzzled with painkillers that I'm looking at this wool. So here we go. Pull it up here. So it's two jersey lots. The first one I ordered for the urchin. So the urchin is a sleeveless t-shirt, v-neck tee with pretty little lace pattern, and it's a linen base that Libby has knitted in, but this is Mardi, which is Happy Go Knitty's wool, and I'm getting the label out. It's Mardi. Oh gosh, can I read that? It is a hand-dyed 4-ply yak silk merino, and this one here is for, oh my gosh, it's divine. It's a beautiful colour. It's just, it's a bit darker than that in life. That looks quite grey, but it's called Ocean. It's not Southern Ocean, and it does look like, you're looking into the sea. It's got little it's beautiful. It's a beautiful colour, and my golly, that's going to knit beautifully. It's quite fine 4-ply, so that's going to be interesting for me because I've only ever knit one 4-ply I'm sorry, this is my brain, jumper. So this will be my second ever 4-ply garment for me. So that's going to be interesting. But what a lovely colour. I'll see if I can bring it out so that you can sort of see it. Is that better? It's not, it's a green, it's almost got a goldy hue through it. It's a very pretty colour. Well done, Helene. Thank you. Really happy with that one. I don't know why I thought that wasn't the colour. It's a little bit darker than I thought the colour I'd ordered. A smidge darker, but I haven't done a swatch yet, so it'll be interesting to see how it knits up. It might knit up lighter because this is the actual colour that Libby made her original one, the one in the pattern with, and it's the actual wool that Lib made her, what's it called? I can't remember the name of it now, but that's okay, jersey in. So that's wool number one. This is where I needed to take out a mortgage, getting 2 lots of wool in the one thing. The second one is exactly the same wool, so it's a Mardi. It is a silk yak merino mix blend. It's exactly the same wool, but it's a different colour, and it is this one. It's not what I thought. I have to be honest. It is a lovely colour. It's a chocolate brown leaning on the grey side. Now that I was going to knit Urchin with this, which is a summer tea, this does not speak Urchin to me. It's a beautiful wool. I am a bit worried about how dark it is with my sight, so I'll have to make sure I have really good contrasting needles, because these are a wee bit darker than I anticipated. But having said that, I'll knit a swatch. I love them. I love them, love them, love them. And I suppose this is the risk when it's a bit like when you buy online clothing and you get it home and you go, oh, it's not what I expected. But they are beautiful, and the dyeing is stunning. I've never used Helene's wool before, so I'm really impressed. It's just beautiful. Looking forward to knitting those, but this does not speak Urchin to me. It doesn't speak summer t-shirt. I suppose it probably doesn't to you either. To me, it actually speaks cardigan. It really does. And I need it. I was thinking the other day, I need a good cardigan pattern. And one of the reasons I don't wear cardigans is because I'm quite big busted. And there's nothing worse than a woman wearing, a big busted woman wearing a cardigan with those, when the buttons go like this on them. It just looks awful. Or that it just looks too small when the cardigan hangs to the side and you've got this big gap in the front. So I found this pattern. I'll show it to you in my next podcast. That is just a basic V-neck simple cardigan, and it has two styles, and one is for a more flat busted person or a smaller busted person, and one is for a bigger busted person. So I would say that the fronts on the bigger busted person probably has darts or more stitches brought into it. So, and it is specifically designed for bigger busted people. So that could be where I'm heading with this. So happy go Knitty, Helene. Thank you very much. I'm really excited for those. I believe that I'm particularly excited about this one, and this will look beautiful in the pattern that I've got, which is Libby's pattern, and it's a t-shirt, but it's a sort of a three-quarter length, and it's got a lace panel down the shoulders. It's quite simple A-line, which will fall beautifully with the silk and the yak in here. It's a V-neck, and it's a top-down. So, and I think they're going to have a knit-along. So I've never joined a knit-along either. All these new things. Isn't this exciting? So there's my new learnings. Yeah, I've never knit with indie wool. Actually, so much so that I didn't even know what indie meant. So I had to Google it. Indie, if you don't know, is short for independent dyers. So an indie dyer is an independent dyer. So they're obviously not commercial. They're an independent person who's dyeing wool. So that's what indie is. So that was my learning around this, because I thought, what does indie mean? Indie dyer. I'd hear it everywhere and think, I have no idea what that means. God bless Auntie Google, I say. Anyway, so I'm actually really excited about those now. And when I first got home, it was like, oh, they're not the colours I wanted. But it was more my mood, Helene. I'm sorry, it was my mood. General anaesthetic and stuff. It wasn't your wool, which is stunning, and I am excited now to knit those. So bring it on, Lib. I'm looking forward to the knit along. My brain is getting better by the day, but as you can tell by how fuddled my words get a little bit, it's not perfect. What else has happened? I think that's pretty much all my knitting. I haven't done any sewing for obvious reasons. I got a $100 voucher for Evans in Masterton for Christmas, and I'm actually really excited about going. With the one thing I am going to buy, hopefully I can get one from them, is a wool, a ball skein spinner. So I forgot to say, so when I ordered my wool from Helene, where is it? Put it down, silly me. I did say to you, the first lot I ordered was quite some time ago, and it was when Libby Johnson brought out this pattern. And I thought, right, I'm going to make, I don't know if they've ever done this either. I'm going to make this pattern in exactly the wool that Libby has made it in. So I hence ordered the wool for for the, what is it called? I can't remember, but that's okay. Didn't realise I could get it skeined up. And I remember telling you in episode 7 that I had brought some wool for the urchin, and it was 100% cotton, and I just didn't think it was right for the pattern. I'm not sure if it would fall nicely. So I chose not to do it, and late at night I ordered some more of Helene's Māori, and it said, do you want hank or ball? Oh. Right, so I got the ball. So I didn't know, even you get a choice on whether, obviously Helene spins it up, winds it up, and this one isn't wound. But I don't have a winder. I actually don't mind the process of I used to get a stool, and I'd put it on its side and hang the hank over the legs, and I'd just sit there and wind and wind and wind. I don't mind that process at all. I could do that, but if I really enjoy, and I certainly think I will be, buying more indie yarn, I will want a ball spinner. So I'm going to spend my money at Evans if I can get one on that. And the other thing I'd quite like to do is I want to get a pattern I want to make a simple linen dress with pockets, just a nice plain sort of A-line, basic little yoked 3/4 or short sleeved linen dress. I think they're really great for summer, and so they just look lovely on. They're becoming. So I want a pattern that I can sort of use every year and just change it to, the length of the sleeve or the different fabric, etc. So a good basic pattern. So I'm going to get one of those, and maybe shout myself a piece of linen. It doesn't have to be linen, but linen is lovely in the summer. It could be cotton. To be honest, it'll go more with, depends what colour and what piece of material. This little magpie will go, ooh, too. So, excuse me, let's have a quick drink, talking too much. Yeah, so that's been, with recovery, I've been doing podcasts, heaps of podcasts. I found so many knitting podcasts that I didn't know were there. Some lovely ones like The Gentle Knitter, The Thoughtful Knitter. Who else have I been? One of the ones that my very dear friend Yvonne recommended to me is called What Vivi Did, V-I-V-I. And it's a woman that lives very frugally, and she has, this is in England, so she has a, what do you call those gardens that they have? Allotment. So she has an allotment, and she lives purely on her garden. She makes a wee bit of money to keep the house running. But I'm really enjoying those, following them through. She's quite vivacious to listen to, so it's not boring. And yeah, so if you're interested in sort of living a sustainable life, being frugal, she's a vegetarian. In fact, I think she may be vegan. I'm not 100% sure, but yes, I think she is vegan. But she shares recipes, she shares ideas, she shares how she stores them, right down to things like when she gets her pumpkin yield in, she counts how many pumpkins she's got and how many weeks that will do her to ensure that she's got enough pumpkin to last her for 52 weeks of the year until the next crop comes up. So it's fascinating. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, so that's called What Vivi Did, or What Vivi Does, What Vivi Did, and it's really worth a look. So that's what I've been watching mostly, apart from my favourites, Needles on the Ready, Unwind and Knit with me. Lisa's put out another podcast as well. Yeah, so all my usual. So really, I have been podcasting myself senseless. I've been listening to my Outlander book, which I'm loving. I'm on series 6, book 6, and I am loving it. They're big books. They're big books, hours and hours and hours of reading, but fascinating. You do have to really concentrate in them. I guess because I've followed it right through from series 1 to 6. There's lots of different angles and families that are coming in, and you go, oh, that's right, that's his wife, and that's her wife, and his child, and that, yeah, and because the time travel as well, so they go back to, so it does take a bit of thought. So I couldn't do a lot of reading for the first few days, but in fact, that's what I'm going to do after my podcast, because I need to lay down and just do something nice and quiet before I get into some knitting this afternoon. I think my sister's coming out for lunch, which will be lovely, and then I'll get into some knitting this afternoon while I can still have a good reason for sitting knitting almost all day. Anyway, I think that's probably the end of the podcast for me. Don't want to go on and on and on. My last one was a heck of a long podcast. Might keep this one a little bit shorter, huh? I hope you've had a lovely week. I wish you a great week ahead with lots of time. Mental health. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about, mental health. One of the things that I noticed before I went in for surgery was I was obviously getting quite nervous because it was major surgery, and I was told by the doctor it was major surgery. It was the last resort. And she's right, it's going to be at least a 2-hour operation. And so I was getting a little nervous because I've had, a few sort of half-hour operations, but nothing quite so big. So I was a bit nervous. And I noticed that showed in my knitting. So when I would pick my knitting up, I would be, I would miss stitches, and I'd be trying to get the wool over the needle all the time, and it wouldn't go over, and I'd be rushing, and my tension would be uneven, and I'd have to stop myself and sort of say, no, come on, breathe, do your box breathing. I've talked about box breathing in the past. So that's one of the nurses said that how they explain it. I always say 4 seconds in through your nose, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out through your mouth. But in the hospital, the nurse said, smell the roses in, enjoy the roses, blow the candle out. So that's another good way of doing it. I had to stop myself and pace myself until I could get into a rhythm that wasn't, and once I'd done that, it actually sort of translated into how I was feeling. So how I was feeling was not great, and then it showed in my knitting. When I slowed down my knitting and paced it, it actually translated back to my feelings. So, this is where, for me, knitting is more than just a hobby. It's a passion. It is so good for my mental health. It really does help me keep myself even. What it does is helps me recognize when I'm not, even in my mental health. So it can be anything. It doesn't have to be knitting, of course. It can be reading, it can be mowing the lawns, it can be walking, swimming, whatever it is. But if you recognize that you're not doing it at a good pace and rhythmic, which stimulates your serotonin, that's when you need to look at, okay, I need to bring it back and go right back to the basics of stress management, which is your breathing, box breathing. So yeah, that's what I've my mental health thought for this last week. I certainly wasn't nervous going into theatre. They asked me if I wanted a sedation. I said no, and I'm sure it's all of the help that I'd given myself with the breathing and keeping myself in control and in check all the way through. So, but I knew I was starting to feel a bit at the beginning. So there we go. That's my mental health discussion. Yeah. Be a good week. It's you're in control. And I will see you in podcast number 9. All right. Bye for now, guys.